Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today a question from listener Andy Dixon. Andy Dixon posted this question in the Short Funk Facebook group. Type Short Funk into Facebook or go to the shortfunk.com website and click on the Facebook link. Andy asks about my time in the UK, and I'm going to break this up into a number of separate recordings because there was no clear, definitive, one short podcast recording that could categorize my time in the UK. But I wanted to start this recording associated with my time in Leicester. Leicester is a city that is about 2 hours north of London. And when I first arrived in the UK, I initially stayed with my father. But then I stayed in a place called the Leicester YMCA. I've already talked about this on the Stone 8 podcast. I'm not going to repeat this here. But aside from staying at the Leicester YMCA, my time in Leicester was about working really, really hard. I worked for Ericsson at the time, and Ericsson had this strange policy because it was an Ericsson in the UK that was funded by an Ericsson in Sweden, that you could be paid overtime based on the extra hours that you worked. I worked roughly 80 to 100 hours per week at that job. I devoted large portions of my weekend to working at that job, and I did this for two reasons. The first reason is that I had substantial legal costs that I incurred when I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. We'll talk more about that at another Short Funk. In fact, I think I've already talked a little bit about that in a previous Short Funk. The other issue was that I was going to be married. And truth be told, actually, my time in Leicester wasn't all devoted to this notion because I hadn't actually proposed to my girlfriend at the time, but I got the sense that I needed to have a good amount of money if my girlfriend at the time was going to come and live with me. And I needed to live comfortably. I arrived in the UK pretty destitute. I arrived very underweight, very little sleep, and a variety of problems that can only be attributed to the last 3 months that I spent in the US. Again, to be discussed in another Short Funk recording. But when I arrived in the UK, I realised that I had to increase my calorific intake. I spent very small amounts of time with my father, stepmother, brother, and stepbrother. So I spent a good portion of my time in the UK when I wasn't working, explored the interesting culinary epicentre that is Leicester. Leicester serves as probably one of the largest populations of migrants from continental India. Good number of folks from Pakistan, small number of folks from Bangladesh. Interesting melting pot ethnically. And in terms of food, it was amazing. The quality of UK food is there. It's well defined now. It's not as bad as it was 30 years ago. A lot of people satirise it, but quite comfortable. Yorkshire pudding, meat roasted of some kind, heavy gravy, overcooked vegetables, all good. Fish and chips, all the usual standard fare. But in addition to this, there was amazing Indian food, regional Indian food, and a variety of other cuisines that I'd experimented with, but I utilised my time in Leicester in order to enjoy. Truth be told, a majority of the food in Leicester that I ate was pub food, but there were a good number of Indian and Chinese and various other additions, Thai, Vietnamese. The other benefit of living in inner-city Leicester was that it was a university town, which meant that all the places that I was going to were typically open till all hours of the day and night. It wasn't good necessarily if you wanted to live and sleep in downtown Leicester, but in general terms, it made for an experience. An experience that was really about distancing myself from my experience in the US and also defining what my time in the UK would be like. I was in Leicester total for I think about 3 months. I spent 1 solid month in the US, proposed to my girlfriend at the time, she became my fiancée, she's now my wife, and divided my time in the US, although I went back to the US and subsequently shut down the stuff that I was doing in the Bay Area and a variety of other things, but really provided a good full stop, a good point of pausing, and then moving on to the remainder of my life in the UK with my fiancée and then wife, Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.